When it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Companies like to treat us like pack mules, dangling a carrot just outside of reach while sitting on our backs and taking us for a ride. We have all heard of spurious audio company claims. Buy this $500 audio cable, or buy this magic tape to wrap around your DOP, or listen to Tidal. Nobody in their right mind would spend $500 for an audio cable, but people who are otherwise sane, logical, and stable-minded buy those cables anyway. They swear by them. But those people are few and far between. You cannot have an audio company making money when only a handful of suckers will buy their overpriced cables. So what does the audio company do? It makes a sub-$100 product that is as spurious as the $500 cable. This is where Audioquest comes into play. They claim that the Jitterbug, a $60 USB decrapifier, works. It makes your music more betterer. Audioquest that all computing devices inherently generate a significant amount of noise and parasitic resonances and pollute the audio path. They claim that the Jitterbug fixes this problem. You are promised clearer and more compelling sound, music, dialogue, etc. In other words, Audioquest says a better audio experience. You could not speak more gibberish if you were locked in a mental asylum and receiving 24-hour care and forced medication. Audio companies make all sorts of wild claims. Sometimes those claims are minor and forgivable. For example, when a company says that they make the best reference class headphone, I get it. They truly believe in their product. That's fine. But when Audioquest or any other company boasts that you need to buy this product because your computer is possessed by demons, it is outright lying. The Jitterbug does nothing, absolutely nothing. After multiple tests using various equipment, I found that the Jitterbug is as useful as a textbook in front of Donald Trump. Those two things simply don't compute. This $60 piece of metal and plastic provides no better sound than before I bought it. Reading Audioquest's laughable webpage on the Jitterbug is, well, laughable. If it wasn't enacting and enticing people to throw away money, I would be amused. But it is telling people to waste money, and I am not amused. Examining the claims. It is safe to say that I do not approve of the Jitterbug. I cannot say that every other similar device in the market is also to be distrusted. I have not tried any of those other devices. But let's be honest, by the time I get done ripping apart Audioquest and the Jitterbug, if you're still convinced you need to buy one of these USB sticks, go right ahead. And by the way, also send me $100, because you're clearly willing to throw away good money. All roads lead to possessed USB ports. Audioquest says that all USB ports are noisy and cause jitters and have parasites. That's their language, not mine. I wouldn't be stupid enough to make those types of comments. Do you know why Audioquest starts off their marketing this way? It's an old marketing trick. You see, when a company doesn't have a product to sell, it sells you the idea of a product. Here are a few examples. Around 2012, Skechers was sued by the FTC for lying, outright lying. It had been marketing a shoe called the Shape Up, a tennis shoe with a stupid curved heel. Skechers marketed this shoe as having the power to help women lose weight, burn calories, get more fit without stepping foot in a gym. They said that women who wear these shoes will tone their legs and butts while they do everyday things. Walk to the fridge, drive the kids to the school, take a shower, whatever, it didn't matter. But of course, it did matter. It turned out that Skechers was full of shit, and millions of people have been duped. Or how about this one? Trump Steaks was a lucrative business venture started by Donald Trump. He successfully marketed and profited from selling high-grade steaks and changed the steak industry. No, I'm kidding. This is Trump we're talking about. He sold low-grade steak, marketed it as high-grade premium steak, and to put the topping on this ice cream sandwich of shit, sold it exclusively through the Sharper Image store. That's right, the same store that sold you innumerable cheap Chinese nose hair trimmers and clunky home appliances also sold frozen steaks with Trump's name on it. As you can imagine, that didn't go over very well. And how about this last one, the Google Glass? Remember, Google Glass was an initiative by Google to sell virtual reality headset displays that everyone could wear all the time. These were slim eyeglass frames without the glass part and a small screen position over the right eye. It made people dizzy, disoriented, distracted, and worst of all, anyone wearing it got the living shit bit out of them. Oh, and it failed, because it was stupid. In all of these companies' examples, they tried to sell people the concept of greatness. It all sounded too good to be true, and frankly, it was. People were either too gullible or inept or curious and bought into the marketing. Everyone who did was, frankly, quite unhappy. I bring this up because Audioquest is a terrible habit of misleading people. On the one hand, they make some excellent headphones. I was and remain quite impressed with their Nighthawk and Night Owl headphones. If you can find one of those headphones for under $300, you should definitely give them a try. But for everything else, Audioquest is a deceptive company. The Jitterbug is the perfect example. If you read the Audioquest webpage dedicated to the Jitterbug, you will see there's nothing concrete stated. It's all vague terminology. And even though Audioquest says that the Jitterbug causes measurable differences, they don't provide the measurements. Keep scrolling through their chunks of text, but you won't find measurements. Look through their manual, but you won't find measurements. Go to online so-called reviewers, and you won't find measurements. Why? The simplest answer, and the one most likely to be correct, is that Audioquest did not want to show how small the measurements were. For example, if the measurements showed a 2% decrease in noise using the Jitterbug, that's a difference that people cannot hear. But if they leave the statement vague without proof of measurements, then your imagination is left to roam free to make up anything. Further, Audioquest makes some startling statements about USB ports, and that all USB ports have noise and cause jitter and are possessed. This is total nonsense. It has no foundation in reality. What era is Audioquest living in? What shit sandwich did Audioquest employees eat before puking this bullshit onto the webpage? I have said this over and over again, and I will say it here too. USB ports and computer internals are heavily regulated by the FCC. It is difficult to find a noticeably noisy USB port in modern devices. Yes, if you spend $200 for a laptop at Walmart, you're not getting good components, but that shouldn't be a surprise. Anyone who has or will buy a mid-level computer from Asus, Lenovo, Dell, Razer, HP, Apple, Microsoft, or virtually any other known brand will find that the internals are well-sourced and noise-free as far as the human ear is concerned. And once again, Audioquest doesn't provide proof of its assertion that USB ports are the bane to our existence. This is in the old book of Deceptive Marketing. Make a questionable claim and let everybody else sort it out. If I sat here and read through the entire webpage dedicated to the Jitterbug and pointed out all the lies and misleading statements, I would have a 2-hour-long video. Suffice it to say, if you're the type that is easily convinced by the type of language Audioquest uses, you're just the kind of person they want as a customer. For everyone else, be wary. Audioquest makes bold claims that are unverified and unsupported. Let's talk about my tests. I uploaded 4 videos about the Jitterbug. I tested various devices with various setups to give the product a fair chance. I listened carefully with some very serious hardware. I used both FLAC files and Spotify Premium. I used the Jitterbug with an iPhone, a laptop, and a desktop. I repeatedly tested and retested and did A and B tests. And the Jitterbug did nothing at all. It made no difference. You might say that perhaps the Jitterbug's performance would be noticeable if I had a noisy USB port. Well, that might be the case, but that's not what Audioquest says. Audioquest does not limit the Jitterbug to only noisy USB ports. It says that all USB ports are noisy and will benefit from the Jitterbug. Consequently, it should not matter if my computer is brand new and top of the line or a 10-year-old laptop I've been nursing and forcing to eke out 1 more year of life. Let's be blunt. The Jitterbug is a ripoff. It does nothing at all. There is no noticeable difference whatsoever. The sound signature does not change. The noise does not decrease. The soundstage does not increase. The music does not sound more lively. The experience is in no way different. The Jitterbug is a useless product. It is the same type of snake oil as a $500 audio cable designed to eradicate Satan's audio demons. In short, the Jitterbug is a load of bullshit. But let's explore some of the excuses. In the last year or so, while I've been uploading reviews, I have come across some rather interesting personalities. When someone discusses a hi-fi product and points out its shortcomings and recommends people not rush out to buy it, a handful of vocal enthusiasts take up their torches and march onto YouTube to make their point. And their point is always disjointed. When I reviewed the Jitterbug, some people took offense and made very staunch defenses of the product and Audioquest. Their defenses fell into 5 broad categories. 1. The emotional spin. 2. The equipment rant. 3. The professional reviewer bias. 4. The benefit of all doubts. And 5. The superior audiophile ear. It's important that we discuss all 5. The emotional spin. By emotional spin, I mean people say that the Jitterbug must do something because they feel the change. They can somehow innately tell if the little bugger is working. One of the proponents of this type of argument said, quote, "It definitely makes a difference." And when pressed for actual explanation about what that difference is, well, nothing. Dead silence. That person and I had a back and forth over a few days. I repeatedly asked for specific information about what they heard that prompted them to say that the Jitterbug worked. Nothing. I invited that person to upload a video of their parameters, and I would try to mimic those parameters, and we would then have a debate about what each of us heard. Nope. Nothing. No response. It's no surprise why people who are otherwise well-meaning fall into this type of logical fallacy. It's because so-called reviewers use the emotional tug-of-war as an argument. People like John Darko, who uses candy-filled euphemisms of a 9-year-old with a half a brain shut down due to polio, are not the exception to the hi-fi reviewer world. He is the rule. Take a look at WhatHiFi.com's pointless, useless, stupid, and grotesquely disingenuous review of the Jitterbug. What Hi-Fi gives the Jitterbug 5 stars after they conducted a very lackluster and ass-kissing review. Even though they say it doesn't work consistently, and that it is completely equipment specific. Oh, and their prostituted review lacked specificity about what they heard. Here's what they said about the sound. Brace yourselves. Quote, "There's more meat on the bones of the opening guitar riff. There is more solidity to each note that you can hear the subtle differences that different levels of force are applied to the strings. Drum thwacks hit with even more conviction, punctuating the track in all the right places without disrupting its rhythm. There's also more detail and insight as to the echo and reverb that halos around Anthony Kiedis' vocal. Each piece of sonic jigsaw is there, and you're presented with a rich, detailed picture." And What Hi-Fi also explained what it is like if you don't use the Jitterbug. Quote, "Take the Jitterbug out of the chain and you're back to square one. The song sounds vague in comparison. Those punctuation marks and leading edges are all less pronounced. The clarity is replaced by murky fog, and as a result, rhythms are harder to follow. It's like the difference between having a hangover and a clear head." If anyone finds this type of language compelling, then you are easy prey. Where in this language is there any specific information about the differences? Drum thwacks with more conviction? Punctuation? Sonic jigsaw? Leading edges? This is the epitome of hi-fi reviews, is it? Nothing in What Hi-Fi's paid sponsorship for Audioquest makes meaningful information available. And just like a $50 hooker, What Hi-Fi's so-called review is brief, limited, and provides just enough service to please the customer, that is, Audioquest. But people who have nowhere else to turn use this digital toilet paper called a review website for information. That digital toilet paper then entices people to conduct their own, quote, experiments with spurious testing parameters. For example, one person on the Steve Hoffman forums tried to validate the Jitterbug. He said that he and his other friends all tried the Jitterbug and found a difference, though not night and day. When they took the Jitterbug out of the chain, they, quote, missed it. Wow, what a wonderful and amazing test methodology.
Wow, what a great outcome.
People of the same mindset group together and already predisposed to hear a difference, heard a difference. But they can't put that difference into concrete terms, and they base their conclusion that we missed it like someone misses having sex after not having it for months, which I suppose could be true for some people. Is it any wonder that people who defend hi-fi products do it at using emotional language and vague terms? That's how they are told to listen to music, as if music can never be explained logically. Look, there is a difference here. People are appealed to by music differently. That's emotional. But audio equipment is not emotional. It is a concrete item, a tangible physical thing that either makes a noticeable difference or it doesn't. Either you hear something different with the Jitterbug or you don't. Emotion has nothing to do with it. And if you rely on emotion as your argument, then you've already lost. You're not convincing anyone other than those who already think like you. You're preaching to the cult choir. Ultimately, emotional arguments should be rejected outright. They are not valid and should not be the basis to purchase audio gear that promises measurable results. Let's talk about the equipment rant. The next argument is that I didn't use the correct equipment. Here is the list of items I used for the Jitterbug tests. The Dragonfly Cobalt, the Dragonfly Red, the FX Audio DAC X6, the iPhone XS, the 2013 MacBook Pro, a custom-built desktop PC, Chord Mojo, SMSL SU8, Massdrop 789, Mytek Brooklyn DAC Plus, iFi DSD Black Label, Focal Clear, Campfire Audio Andromeda IEMs. This is a wide swath of equipment from various price points. I documented each step of every test. This is because I want people to know what I did and how I did it. When reviewing things, one should be as transparent as possible. But so-called hi-fi reviewers can't seem to grasp this concept. For example, whathifi.com says that they use 3 pieces of equipment to conduct their so-called test: the Dragonfly DAC, the Chord Mojo, and the Chord Hugo. Their test parameters are laughable. What hi-fi failed to provide meaningful information for their purported test. For example, what computer did they use? What mobile device did they use? What headphones did they use? How many times did they conduct an A/B test? Was the Jitterbug used in parallel or series? Because Audioquest suggests both. Oh, and because What Hi-Fi is a disreputable and disingenuous website, they also didn't say which version of the Dragonfly they tested. Was it the black or red? Because both were out in 2016 when their bullshit-laden sponsored advertisement for Audioquest was uploaded. Having put the Jitterbug through their battery of non-tests, What Hi-Fi lazily admits that the Jitterbug didn't have much to offer when connected to the Hugo, a $2,000 unit. But, of course, since What Hi-Fi is a dirty prostitute, they quickly brush aside the Jitterbug's failure because pointing that out will clearly hurt the bottom line. But not the ass, the wallet. People who say that the Jitterbug is equipment-specific create another hurdle for themselves and for Audioquest. Audioquest, for example, does not say that the Jitterbug should be used with a specific device, nor does it say that the Jitterbug will work only with expensive units, or that the Jitterbug's amazing qualities show themselves only under specific conditions. So who exactly is saying that you need to have a pricey peripheral to use with the Jitterbug? People who can't stand being told that the Jitterbug does nothing with the equipment used to test it against. That is, even though I used 13 different pieces of equipment to test the Jitterbug, none of those things were high-end enough, and so I couldn't hear the value of the Jitterbug. That begs the question, what is high-end enough for the Jitterbug? Is there a specific price tag that the little bugger likes? Is it like the spoiled rich kid who won't drink anything except Voss bottled water? Or the angry ranters who took offense to my testing of the Jitterbug said this: do you actually use your ears and test things on high-end rigs, or do you just have an agenda? I think the latter. When I challenged this person directly and demanded to know what is high-end enough for them, no response. Anyone who says that the Jitterbug needs to be used with super high-quality DACs and amps and headphones is lying. There is no such requirement. And if this argument were to be accepted, that means that the Jitterbug is not for anyone who has a low or mid-level audio peripheral. That means if you have anything under $2,000 in your audio chain, don't bother getting the Jitterbug. That is the logical conclusion to this argument, and I am fine with accepting that conclusion. Oh, but what about the ranters and personally affronted? What equipment did they use with the Jitterbug? If their equipment is not top of the line, then clearly whatever they believe they heard is all in their imagination. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. You cannot create a standard of proof and then immediately say it doesn't apply to you. This is why arguments and claims that you need to have top-of-the-line components are spurious and simply not credible. Let's discuss the professional reviewer bias. Would it surprise you to know that I hold professional reviewers in utter contempt? The John Darkos, What Hi-Fis, and Zero Panterases of the audiophile world are incorrigible, lack credibility in their testing, and are all purchased, bought, and delivered. It is sad to see people believe these mercenaries for hire. These so-called reviewers would give high marks to anything given sufficient inducement. Free audio gear is such an inducement. They get it for free, do meaningless tests, upload glowing reviews, and get ad revenue. That's the chain. Some, like Zeos, get more money by selling those free items, make money by selling shitty t-shirts, and supplement their income through Patreon, all on the initial premise that everything they have reviewed is given to them free of charge. How can you trust these so-called reviewers? Yes, it's one thing for a company to send you something to review and you thoroughly review it. I'm not saying that in order to be a credible reviewer, you need to buy all the equipment you test. But if you're going to review something, actually review it. Don't use candy-filled language, don't use vague terms, don't rush through the testing, don't minimize the failures of the product, and don't say that every single thing you review is a great product, because that simply cannot be the case. If something is the greatest, then other things must be worse. If someone takes first place, that means everyone else did not. John Darko, What Hi-Fi, and even Zeos fall into this trap of endorsing every product on the back of vague testing and third-grade language skills. In a perfect world, people would see right through their charade, but people, unfortunately, don't. On the Steve Hoffman forums, someone asked whether the Jitterbug actually did anything, and a forum resident, basically someone who spends a tremendous amount of time replying and commenting on the forums, said the following, quote, "Of course it works. All the great reviews indicate this." This is a dishonest statement. All the great reviewers do not agree. Only the spurious and the sluts do. The forum resident should and does know better, I suspect. But here he is evangelizing for Audioquest. Let me put this simply. Reviewers are not great or credible just because they have a web presence. They are not honest or reliable merely because they get every hi-fi product to review. The only factor for credibility is actual conduct. That's it. So, when so-called reviewers are not transparent about their testing methodologies, like What Hi-Fi, or use vague terms like John Darko, or perform perfunctory tests like Zeos, they show they are not reliable. If you put your faith in these people and treat their words as fact, then you deserve to waste your money and live in a happy bubble with your own thoughts and pleasant feelings. But for everyone else, those who aren't going to throw good money after bad, relying on hi-fi reviews is a dangerous gambit. When reviewers refuse to provide testing parameters, do not use concrete words to explain what they hear, and repeatedly hide negative aspects of a product, they become useless shills. How hard is it to upload a video showing the testing of the products? If reviewers have a website, then they have every ability to record a video on their cell phones, examining and showing precisely what they did in the test. Show it. Demonstrate you heard what you claim you heard. Let people see your work. The only way to hold others accountable is to make sure that they prove their claims. But those hi-fi reviewers who uploaded Jitterbug reviews refused to provide their testing methodology. They refused to show their work. They refused to use concrete terms to explain what they heard. How can you trust anyone who won't give you a straight answer? If you took your car to the mechanic and the mechanic wouldn't answer how much it would cost to change the oil and rotate the tires, you take your business elsewhere. Same concept. When reviewers don't give straight answers, clear information, they're useless. Relying on them is the path to poverty. Let's examine the benefit of all doubts argument. When people are running out of things to argue, they say that maybe the product would work under different conditions. What if X happened instead of Y? What if we hunt down products that would work with the Jitterbug? What if we purchased a mid-1990s laptop and tested the Jitterbug on that? Surely that would show the Jitterbug's prowess. A viewer, who knows how much he actually watched frankly, wrote in the comments for my second Jitterbug video, quote, "This has gotta be a troll. You're running the focal clears on a mid-fi amp and listening to Spotify." In other words, how dare I use the Mojo and a mobile device with Spotify? You can't hear the Jitterbug's amazing qualities with that setup. You need to find something else that works. This argument is very similar to the one which says that you need top-of-the-line products in your audio chain to hear the benefits of the Jitterbug. But there's a slight twist. You see, unlike those who demand only the best in the audio chain, people like the one I quoted here simply reject the process altogether. It's not right. You're being a troll. You're doing it wrong. But they provide absolutely no suggestion what they believe would be the correct way to test. You see, these types of people simply live in the alternate universe, rejecting everything that causes them to question a strong belief. You might say that I'm being a little harsh. No, I don't think I am. I'm being rather pleasant, to be honest. Allow me to explain. I asked a question of the person who wrote the comment I quoted a moment ago. I reminded him that Audioquest never said that you cannot use the Jitterbug with streaming services or mid-level DACs or amps. And I asked him to justify his comment that I'm trolling. I told him I would use his explanation in a video. I gave him fair warning so that he would put forward his best argument. This is what he said. I have not edited any portion of his retort. Quote, "To do an objective test, you need to be sure that the lowest common denominator or the bottleneck is what you're testing. It's a pretty simple idea. If you have an entire chain that rapes the sound at every point, you can't expect to hear a subtle change, if any. Think of it as someone trying to test if a high-end Class A all-discrete amp sounds better than some hi-fi amp, but he tested it with YouTube through the Beats Solo headphones." Oh, there's so much to dissect here. I love it. Rapes the sound? What the hell does that even mean? Who's raping sound? Which one of my DACs or amplifiers or headphones or DAPs or IEMs is guilty of rape? That begs the question, is the individual device guilty of the raping or the company that made the device? Can you hear sound being raped? What does it sound like? This argument is so stupid, I can't believe I'm actually talking about it. But I have to, because this is what I regularly have to deal with. Even if you try to parse out the painful euphemism, this comment makes no sense. In the test, I used 3 items: the iPhone XS with its adapter, the Mojo, and the Focal Clear. I played music through Spotify, so I have the source, the phone, the DAC amp, the Mojo, the headphone, the Clear, and the songs from Spotify. I can't get more lowest common denominator than that. Take any one of these pieces out of the chain and you can't do the fucking test. Or was it this person's point that you can't use Spotify and need only the most high-resolution files? If so, that's also a stupid claim. Do you know why? Because Audioquest themselves say you can use the fucking Jitterbug with streaming devices. Look at the manual. Or did this person mean that you can't listen to the Jitterbug using a mobile device, like a phone? Wrong again. Because Audioquest specifically says that you can use the fucking Jitterbug with the mobile devices and have a picture of a goddamn iPhone in the manual. The thing is, if you take this person's argument at face value, it is self-defeating. Let me say this as simply as I can. His position is that you need exceptional items throughout the chain, Class A amp, a high-priced DAC, only the most high-resolution files, and only then could you hear the difference with the Jitterbug. If true, then you shouldn't hear any noise or jitters or hobgoblins with lower-cost audio equipment. Fantastic! No need to buy the Jitterbug, just buy the cheaper equipment and don't worry about all the audio demons Audioquest tells scary stories about, because you won't hear it in the cheap products. In other words, we could all just believe that the Jitterbug works and change every testing parameter to benefit the Jitterbug until there is some evidence that the Jitterbug does in fact work. Never mind that my testing parameters are squarely in line with the Audioquest says. The Jitterbug will work with all USB ports and with all devices. But some people just want me to give it the benefit of the doubt and bend over backwards when I don't hear the difference and excuse the product and the company from ridicule. Why? Audioquest does not have a hold on me. I don't have ad revenue that I have to worry about. My website does not need audio fools clicking on it 100 times a day to make money. So what would prompt me to give the Jitterbug the benefit of the doubt? Oh, and just so you know, I am trying to be fair, I replied to this person and was very direct about how ridiculous his argument was. Then I told him it was his job to prove that the audio was being raped, a concept that he brought up and consequently was on the hook to justify. And his response? None. Nothing. Nada. Zip. A lot like the Jitterbug's performance. Let's talk about the final argument. The audiophile has superior hearing. This is a simple one. Audiophiles who disagree will always say that I'm not hearing things correctly. Right. It's my subpar ear canal that's at fault. We've really come down to the bottom of the bullshit audiophile argument barrel, have we? Got nothing else, so you have to say that your hearing is superior. Anybody who makes this argument should be ridiculed mercilessly. This is the equivalent of a punk-ass bitch who buys a 4-cylinder Pontiac Grand Am, adds globs of paint to it, some spinny wheels, and a big-ass speaker in the trunk, and drives around town like a total tool he is. Audio fools who say their hearing is superior are punk-ass bitches. No, your hearing isn't any better than the average person's. It's just that your ego is larger than your head. Those aren't 5 Hz frequencies you're hearing. That's the pop and sizzle of the brain cells dying. Is the Jitterbug a worthwhile purchase? No. No. I repeatedly said in my videos that I cannot rule out specific cases when the Jitterbug might make a difference. If, for example, you have a particularly noisy USB port or just the perfect combination of factors, mysterious factors, then perhaps the Jitterbug might be somewhat helpful. But that's contrary to Audioquest's claims. Audioquest says that every single USB port suffers from noise and jitters and demonic possession. And it says that the Jitterbug is for every USB port, every PC and Mac, every mobile device, and for every type of music, whether high-res files or streaming. And when tested within those parameters, the Jitterbug failed over and over and over again. I used it in parallel and series. I used it with different devices. I did A/B tests. I tried different combinations of devices. I gave it hours of opportunity to work. I listened for any change. Nothing. The bottom line is that the Jitterbug is a waste of time. You have to be careful when buying these types of products because you will sorely be tempted to throw away your money. One commenter on Steve Hoffman's forum wrote that he was going to buy the Jitterbug out of curiosity since it was only $50. That is the trap. It's not only $50 or only $60. That is the MSRP. You're paying Audioquest full price to test a device that doesn't work. You are paying the company money for nothing. It's not about curiosity. It's about fairness. It's not about testing. It's about keeping your hard-earned money in your pocket. If Audioquest offered the Jitterbug to you and asked that only you pay for the shipping, that would be a worthwhile expense for curiosity's sake. But that's it. Anything more to satisfy curiosity, and you're buying into the snake oil salesman's pitch. I've made my position clear, I hope. As far as Audioquest claims about the Jitterbug go, they are lies. Audioquest says that the Jitterbug has measurable differences, but it doesn't provide the measurements. The whore sluts of the audiophile review community didn't conduct a real test to put the Jitterbug to the claims. And the evangelists are so full of themselves that they refuse to acknowledge that they are wrong, that their arguments make them sound as if they were dropped on their heads at birth. The Jitterbug does not add anything to your music. It does not take anything away. It does nothing. Do not buy. If you like this content or any of my other content, then please consider joining my other patrons on Patreon. I currently have 11 very giving, generous patrons who give me a little bit of their hard-earned money every month. If you could find it in yourself to donate just $2 a month on Patreon, that would help me keep saving money to buy products to fully test and provide with thorough reviews. If you are a regular viewer but have not subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I review every comment and reply whenever possible. If you want me to review a product I currently own, please complete the review request form in the description below. I'll get to your request as soon as I can.